Now we're going to draw box plots, including box plots that follow a special rule about outliers, which we'll get to in a moment. First, we're going to start out with just a standard box plot. The way a box plot works is you look at the 5-number summary and you plot all of these points, and then we're going to draw a special shape around that. So our min is 4. By the way, first you start out with a number line. I have that here already, but you always draw an evenly spaced number line as your very first step when you're creating a box plot. We have the minimum of 4 and a maximum of 2, so I numbered from 0 to 25, marking by 5s, which was a pretty clean way to do that. So I'm going to start out and put a little dot everywhere that I hit one of these numbers in my 5-number summary. 4, 9, 12, 14, and 22. So these are the 5 numbers in my 5-number summary. Now all I'm going to do is draw a box around my first and third quarter numbers. So go ahead and do that. And where my median shows up, I'm going to draw a vertical line in the box. So that is the box of the box plot. Sometimes they are called box and whisker plots, and that is because they have these little whiskers that go from the box all the way out to the min and max. And right there, you start out with that evenly spaced number line, you draw your box, mark your median, and draw whiskers out to your max and min. That is your standard box plot. Now we're going to learn about a special rule to make box plots the way that we want to do it in this class, which is keeping track of outliers. So here we have the numbers in our distribution. We had the numbers 4, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 22. They are right here. If you find your first and third quarter, your 9 and your 14, and you subtract them, you get your interquartile range. That's what the number 5 is. So the way this rule works is we're going to start with our lower quarter, and we're going to subtract 1.5 times the interquartile range. So minus 1.5 times 5. So 9 minus 1.5 times 5 is 1.5. On the other end, we're going to go up. So we're going to take our upper quartile, our higher quarter, and we're going to add to it 1.5 times that IQR, 1.5 times 5. And that number is going to give us 21.5 if you throw that in your calculator. So to review what I just did there, we took the lower quartile, which was 9, and we subtracted 1.5 times the IQR. 1.5 times the IQR is going to be 7.5. 9 minus 7.5 is going to give us 1.5. That means what we've defined is anything less than 1.5 is considered an outlier. Now we don't have any numbers less than 1.5, so we're good to go. No outliers on the low end. On the upper end, we have our 14, and we added 1.5 times 5. So we took our upper quarter, and we added 1.5 times the interquartile range. That means that any number more than 21.5, because that's what we came out to here, is considered an outlier. Well, we actually do have one of those numbers. 22 is above 21.5, so 22 is considered an outlier. So now let's take a look at how we would modify the box plot that we drew earlier to account for the fact that 22 is considered an outlier. What we're going to do is we're going to take the 22 here, and we're just going to kind of cross that out. So our new maximum is going to be 14. If we were to draw that on our number line, we'd see that 14 is actually all the way back here, right at our third quarter. So we're going to have a funny looking box plot because on the right side, we're actually not going to have a whisker. It's just going to stop at that dot. So this is going to be our box plot. And where we used to have that 22, that outlier, we're going to mark an X. So there we go. This is our new box plot. We have the lower end whisker, we have the box with the median marked off, and because our maximum and our third quarter happen to be the same, we just kind of stop there. If our newest maximum was 15, we would have drawn it and it would have looked something like this. Now you're probably wondering, can I do that on my calculator? The answer is yes, you can. Now it's not as easy to read, so it's not quite as handy, but it's not a bad thing to know how to do, especially if you want to check yourself. Make sure you have all your numbers here, 4 through 22, punched in your list 1 in your calculator. And once you do that, go over to Second, Stat Plot. Make sure your Plot 1 is turned on, and under the type, you're going to want to go to these two things that look like box plots. You'll notice the first one has the little dots at the end, just like we drew for the outliers, and the second one does not. So if you want it to mark outliers, you're going to choose that first one. And it's going to follow the same rules that we're used to. So then you do your zoom, 9 for stat, and here you go. Here is the exact same box plot that we just drew, and then at the end it has the little marker for the outlier. If you want to go ahead and try to figure out where the numbers are, you can move your cursor along, going left and right, and it'll give you a kind of a rough estimate of where things are at. So where this would be 9 on here, you can kind of see it's pretty close, but not exactly right. But this is a great way to check yourself if you're not sure.